the moon is full and you happen to call. Here's a very lovely and quite involved song from Joan Baez chronicling her relationship with Bob Dylan. It came to me on a suggestion from one of my lovely subscribers, Susan. Susan, thank you. It's a really good suggestion. In essence, it's quite simple. There are 8 verses, they're all the same, and they all have 4 chords. That's it. They're quite straightforward, but then in between and either side there's quite a lot of instrumental picking, and it all relies on this very crisp and quite quick stuff that we do need to get under our fingers. So look, I'll sketch out the chords for the verses, and then at least we'll have those out of the way, and then we'll get on and look at this picking. So I should mention I've got a capo on the 1st fret. There are various live recordings of her on YouTube where she's playing this without a capo, but the original recorded version has a capo on the 1st fret, so we're in F minor as if we're playing in E minor. For the verse we've got 2 bars of E minor. Well, I'll be damned. 2 bars of C. Here comes your ghost again. But that's not unusual. 2 bars of G. It's just that the moon is full. 2 bars of D7. And you happen to... Now, depending on which verse you're playing, you're going to end up on E minor either for 2 bars or for 4 bars, or you're going to launch into an instrumental section. But essentially, that's the verse. I'll be down, here comes your ghost again. But that's not unusual, it's just that the moon is full and you happen to call. So I say 8 bars, obviously I'm playing 10 bars here. I'm thinking of the E minor as a variable tag that goes on extra to the verse itself. Just one little thing, and you know, I'm not a great singer, but I do like to sing these songs. I'll be damned starts on an E, and if, like me, you need a bit of help pitching the notes, it's easy to think, here comes your... But it's not. I'll be damned, here... That second note in the second phrase of the melody begins on an F sharp. I'll be damned, here comes your ghost again. Just a little tip, if like me you have to search around a bit for the proper melody notes, but that's it. 2 bars of E minor, 2 bars of C, 2 bars of G, 2 bars of D7, and then, as I say, generally we're on to E minor there, and then various things might happen, but that's it for the verse. Okay, let's start looking at the picking. I'll put the tab on the screen, but you might like to get your hands on my very beautifully produced 4-page sheet music for this, that by the time the video's up on YouTube will be on sale on Sheet Music Plus or Sheet Music Direct, links below the video, and you'll have this printed out as you work through the video. That might be worthwhile. Okay. There's a fair bit of picking, some of it recycles, and we should start by looking at what happens in the verse, and we get this. So I'm picking the bottom string, and there are kind of 3 8s, then the 5th string, and then the 4th string. That's the kind of rhythm, 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2, making 8 8s or 8 quavers if you like. You'll need to get that under your fingers, and that's coupled with the following bar. Now in the second bar of the verse that goes down to an open 4th string. Often, this happens in the intro and elsewhere, that last beat will be the 2nd fret of the 5th string. More like that. That happens at the end of the verses, for instance, so you'll have one of those 2 variations. For now though, we've got that, and that steps down very nicely to the C chord, and we get this. Hammering on from the open 4th string to the 2nd fret. Okay. Alternating that bass down to the G on the 3rd fret of the bottom string, and the 2nd bar of C. Again, we're in our 3 + 3 + 2 rhythm. stepping down to the G. And as far as note for note what Joan Baez plays, I'm not sure. She varies it a little bit, but this is what fits nicely under my fingers, makes sense to me, and is certainly extremely close to what she does on the original. Then we've got this for G. So I'm playing 3-3. That's my other 3. And then there's this. Okay, that's a real Dylanism actually. Open second and fourth strings, and then hammering on with the first and second fingers on the second and first frets. It's like a C over G. Now I happened to see a live version where she was doing this live, I should say, and she plays her G this way. So she has to move those fingers around. I urge you, if you're not particularly settled on which way to play G, this way or this way, do it this way without the first finger. You'll be glad you did. It doesn't seem quite as intuitive to begin with, but for stuff like this it's much easier. Anyway, that bar, we got one of those, and then we get this, something like this. So I'm just treading water on a G here. That doesn't really matter what you do in that bar, except to say for the last 2 half beats, 2nd fret on the 5th string to 3rd fret on the 5th string sets us up for D7. And honestly, I'm not sure what she's doing here, but it's something very much like this. Now this is a picking pattern I often use, and you're going to see this reappear in the bridge section in a minute. Obviously my thumb's up on the 4th string for the D. So it's thumb 1, 2, 3 in fingers. That repeats, except for the second time we come back with the first finger. So thumb 1, 2, 3, thumb 1, 2, 1. This might seem like a lot of detail, but this is really worth getting under your fingers because, as I say, this reappears in the bridge section. That's how I'm playing the D, and then we end on. And this time we do come down to the 2nd fret of the 5th string. That's that variation I mentioned. Okay, so the whole of the verse, I'm just going to pick that slowly like that. Well, I'll be down. Here comes your ghost again, but that's not unusual. It's just that the moon is full and you happen to call. Okay, that's the picking for the verse, and it's worth spending a bit of time just getting that so it flows, particularly this. Okay, now before we go on, it's probably just worth sketching out the structure for the song. As I say, it's quite involved. We begin with a 16-bar instrumental intro. We'll look at that in a second. We begin with this figure that we've already seen. 16 bars of that, then verse 1 into our 2 bars of E minor. Verse 2, exactly the same, except this time it's 4 bars of E minor, so we play this figure twice. That's the only difference. Verse 3, verse 4, and that goes into another instrumental section which is identical to the intro minus the first 2 bars, so otherwise it's the same. Verses 5 and 6. Verse 6 launches us into the bridge, which is new material, and so on. And then there's another instrumental section which is based on material we've already seen, so that just recycles. Then it's verses 7 and 8, and they're the same as the previous ones. And then we play this to fade. On the original, it just fades out, repeating. I'll probably do something similar when we come to the playthrough. Okay, that's it. I mean, as I say, I'll put the tab on the screen and maybe I'll try and indicate whereabouts we are, because it's going to be quite easy to lose your place otherwise. Alright, here's the picking for the intro. As I say, we begin with this thing, which we've already got down. That repeats, but this time we go back up to the 4th fret of the 4th string. Now it's 5th fret, and the picking moves up just to the 2nd and 1st strings. Okay. And now we move up to the top 3 strings only, hammering on to the 2nd fret of the 3rd string. Off, on in our familiar 3-3-2 pattern. And now again in our 3-3-2 pattern up here. And all that moves up to the 5th fret as sliding up and sliding back down to the 4th fret. As we slide up to the 5th fret, that just happens as quickly as possible really, you just about hear that. But as we slide down again, that actually happens over an 8th, so it's a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. We build that slide into the rhythm, then we're back to the 4th and 3rd frets, sliding down to the 2nd. We get a finger on the 1st fret of the 4th string, and then you're going to have to re-finger. There's a B7 happens there, and then we're into 2 of those. So as I say, if you have the sheet music in front of you, that'll be a lot easier, but let me just play that whole thing through for you. And we're into the 1st verse. Now after verse 4 we go into another instrumental section that, as I say, is just like the intro minus the first 2 bars of the intro, and it happens like this. It's the verse with cufflinks. 10 years ago I bought you some cufflinks, you brought me something. We both know what memories can bring, they bring diamonds and familiar phrase on E minor twice, and that takes us into verse 5. And before I forget, just a little detail that I haven't notated but certainly happens on the original from time to time. It's not entirely consistent. Where I've got the top 3 strings notated, the note on the 3rd string open is on the 2nd 8th, and then on the 2nd beat we get the top 2 strings. Sometimes she does this, fans them like that, and the result is more like a rumba. It's more that kind of a thing. As I say, it's not entirely consistent and I haven't put it in the notation, but you know, hear it and you'll see exactly what I mean. So now we have verses 5 and 6. Verse 6, for what it's worth, ends exactly the same way as verse 2, with 4 bars of our E minor riff, so it gets played twice instead of just the once. But the significant thing really here is that we now reach the bridge and we get 2 bars. It's new material. B minor 7 for 2 bars, then A minor 7 for 2 bars, back to B minor 7 for 2, A minor 7 for 2, C for 2, G for 2. Then we get an F major 7. There are a few different ways you could play that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put my 1st finger on the 1st fret of the 2nd string, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd, 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the 4th, and then I'm going to bring my thumb across. Because, I mean, I could play F major 7 this way, but I really want an F on the 4th string, so that's why I'm playing it that way, but you know, you do it as it works for you. And then we end up with another 2 bars of G. I'll sing that for you. Now I see you standing with brown leaves falling all around and snow in your hair. These lyrics come really quickly. Now you're smiling out the window of that crummy hotel over Washington Square. Our breath comes out, white clouds mingles and hangs in the air. Speaking strictly for me, we both could have died then and there. Okay, and I'm picking this differently. This is very much like what she does. I'm not sure if it's exactly identical, but it's the pattern that we saw earlier on. I'm going to begin with my thumb on the 5th string, but then it's thumb 1, 2, 3, Now I'm going to come up with my thumb and play thumb 1, 2, 1. Same for A minor 7. Again B minor 7. And again for C. Just repeats. For G, I'm going to bring my thumb down to the 6th string before coming up to the 4th. And I'm going to do the same thing for F. Okay, so that's the whole of the bridge. That leads us into the interlude that follows. That takes us into verses 7 and 8, and we're done. So let me sing that bridge for you. Now I see you standing with brown leaves falling all around and snow in your hair. Now you're smiling out the window of that crummy hotel over Washington Square. Our breath comes out, white clouds mingles and hangs in the air. Speaking strictly for me, we both could have died then and there. And now we get into a final interlude that's a kind of a patchwork of stuff we've already looked at. But let's take a look at it. We get our B7. And then we get up here again. Another one of these B7s, and our familiar E minor riff gets played twice, and we're into verses 7 and 8, and the whole thing ends with a bit more of this, and it just repeats to fade. Okay, that's everything I've got. I'm going to play a playthrough of the whole thing. I'm going to play guitar. I'm not going to sing it. You'll be glad to hear. I'm going to play the melody on the saxophone. That just gives me a bit more brain power to focus on the picking. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you on the next one. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it.